And it was Billy May. It was, and also there was who was on Capital? K-Star. Nellie Lutcher. He used to love Nellie Lutcher.
Sherry was on there.
Frank Sinatra,
Yes.
Dean Martin,
and
Johnny Otis. Yeah.
And Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Yeah, and Les Paul and Mary Ford.
You used to listen to
and Phillips over here, because there wasn't a CBS, it used to come out on Phillips, so it was Frankie Lane, Johnny Ray, Rosemary Clooney, Joe Stafford, all those people.
I've interviewed all of them.
Yeah.
They're all working, Elton.
Yeah.
They're all working on cruise ships.
Yeah.
Frankie Lane, he's 74 years old, he's had a heart bypass.
Yeah.
He's out there working.
Really?
So the tracking with K-Star works constantly. She's a good singer.
Yeah.
She's a good singer.
Frankie Lane's a good singer too.
And Frankie Lane. They're all, most of them are talented. I did an interview with Mitch Miller, who recorded a lot of them. Guy Mitchell, Clooney, and all those people. Interesting interviews, anyhow.
I remember seeing Guy Mitchell once on the London Palladium. They used to have Saturday night at the London Palladium used to be the big show on a Saturday night live, and Guy Mitchell was on, and he was the star of the show. And for the ending, right at the end, he took his sock off and whirled it around his head, and I thought, what a funny guy. And that was his big, that was like, damn, good grief. I've never forgotten that. Shrimp boats are coming.
Speaking of that, the outrageous things you do and wear on stage. Are you a prisoner of that now? I mean, are the expectations of the crowd so much that you got to do that every time?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've on this American tour. I didn't do it on the British and European tour. I was kind of toned down somewhat. I thought in the American tour, because Bob Mackie makes such good clothes, I just feel in the mood to do it one more time. I think it's probably be the last time I do that sort of thing, as far as like the Bob Mackie outfits go. But I'm always the sort of person. I've always done it through mood. I'm very happy at the moment, so this is reflecting why I'm doing it. When I took the 3-year hiatus in '76 and I stopped, and I came back in '79, and the first thing I did was a Ray Cooper tour, and we just toured all around the world, just the two of us. And I was very somber. I just came on stage but I'm having fun at the moment, and that is part. They do like to see me make. They laugh at it. Then the stage clothes get an ovation. But I wouldn't say I'm trapped by it, because there's so many other strings to my bow. I think, I want to, but I just feel like in that sort of mood. I kind of felt embarrassed. I came over here I came back Thursday from LA, and I landed Friday and went straight to do the Esther Ranson show, which is a Terry Wogan show here. And they wanted me to do a thing with the angel outfit, and I kind of felt silly sitting there doing a talk show during it. It's okay for stage, but when you're sitting down and talking to someone, you feel like a real prat, actually.
Has it ever gotten in the way of the music?
I never thought it ever did get in the way of the music. I mean, like a lot of people, I think, when we first made it in the States, I think we were the darling of FM radio. We were, I couldn't put a foot wrong. And then suddenly, with all the outfits, I was living my teenage years in my success years, my 20s. And I never really had the freedom to do that before, so I did it. And of course, the more people, with me, I'm afraid I'm very excessive. If I do something, I do it to extreme excess. And that was the reason. I mean, I remember that I did the Henry Mancini show. It was live at it was filmed at Santa Monica Civic. My segment of it was, anyway. And there's a very famous picture. I don't know where you can dig it up, but I'm horizontal in the air, and I've just got mauve tights on. It's a black and white photo, a Fillmore shirt, and silver boots with stars, and I'm completely horizontal. And I'd taken 8 outfits of clothes off during this song, and their faces were like, my God. And I remember who's the guy who used to do the Andy Williams show, a very famous director in Hollywood, TV director. Art Fisher. Art Fisher. It was Art Fisher, right? And it was Maxine Taupin that got me to do that, and I sort of... And in the end, people say, well, he doesn't need you to do that. A lot of people didn't particularly like it. You don't need to do that. The music speaks for itself. And I thought, well, yeah, the music speaks for itself anyway. This is me. I'm having fun at the moment. I never ever... Funny thing, everyone said, well, he's going to end up in Las Vegas, and a lot of reviews on the list tour said, well, I kind of like seeing a Vegas show. I hate Vegas. I hate the idea of appearing in Vegas. I mean, the reason I left my original band, Bluesology, years ago. We were backing someone called Long John Baldry, who'd had a couple of hits at The Heartaches Begin. And he'd gone from being a great blues singer to playing cabaret. And one of the reasons I left, and I can't remember why, I mean, I was such a quiet little thing in those days, I refused to play to people who were eating and weren't taking any notice. So that was the reason I left and got to, in touch with Bernie, really. I mean, that was fate. And so, I mean, the whole thing is kind of, and if I ended up in Vegas playing there for 2 weeks, and earning great money, but just doing that every night, I could not do it. I'm totally anti that. I don't want to ever end up doing it. I'm not saying, I'm just not that kind of artist, but I think people think that I am doing that because of the comparison with Liberace and everything.
Do you recall the famous night at the Troubadour, when you look back at it now?
The only thing I can remember about it was shaking hands with Quincy Jones' family, and he has got a lot of family.
You looked like you had 900
Yeah,
kids.
900 people. I mean, and also the second night I remember seeing Leon Russell in the audience, and Leon was my big idol at that point, and that silver hair, he was he was a startling looking man, and I thought, oh my God, I was in the middle of the piano solo and Burned Down the Mission, and I thought, fuck, he's going to look at me and say, this is... I was just petrified, and I lost my voice during the day the next day, and he invited me up to his house, and I thought he's going to tie me to a chair and say, listen, you motherfucker, this is how to play the piano. And because he was happening at the same time, he'd just come off the Joe Cocker thing, and he was doing real well, and he was so nice, he gave me this this gargling potion. I always gargle, and I always do, up to this day, still use it, and it's great for the voice. And we toured together a lot. I was played second on the bill to him a lot, and when we first started touring major halls, and he was great. We used to have the best time. But things happened so quickly. I remember we flew over to Los Angeles for the thing, and we got met by Norman Winter, and this fucking London. I thought, we're going to get into a big American car. We got met by a London Transport double-decker bus, and it took us 2 hours to get from the airport. And all I was thinking of seeing, we passed 77 Sunset Strip, and that was. And then the night we landed, we were so excited we weren't even tired, and we went to see the Dillards, and Dillards were on Elektra, and they had one of my favourite albums of all time was Wheat Straw Suite on Elektra, and so we went to meet them, and I remember the opening act for them was Long Branch and Penny Whistle, right? It was David Fry and J.D. Sowler. So it's just, I was like, I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed it all so much, and the 6 years of coming, we put 17 albums out in 6 years, plus different singles, plus different B-sides, we toured, we just enjoyed it, we couldn't believe it was happening to us, I was like a kid in a candy store, I
wanted to ask you some of the reflections, but Los Angeles has always been a very friendly market for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it is so much now, I think initially it was, I think now my records don't go on LA radio straight away now. I mean, they do other markets, but not in LA. It was initially.
You were at the Dodger
I was
Stadium.
LA Dodger Stadium. In that period of time, I was the cream. LA was my town. Yeah, I don't think so anymore. I think New York fun is more so now. At that time, it was incredible.
It's in retrospect that. Did you think you were invincible? Was it ever going to end? That's 5 or 6 year period. It was startling.
I know, it was startling.
2 albums went in at '1.
Yeah.
Billboard.
Yeah. Well, you get these periods, don't you? At the time, you don't think about it. But now I've had time to reflect. Everybody who's like that, gets that big, goes through it. That goes through a period where they are invincible. Phil Collins, Springsteen, Madonna, Prince for a while. Not the same amount of time, but you just can't fail. And then suddenly, everything levels out after a while. And I knew it at 76. I was feeling real tired, and the Blue Moves album, which is one of my finest albums, one of my most sophisticated albums, but not one of my most successful albums. I knew I was peaking, and I had made that decision to come off the road. Although I knew that someone was taking over, and I knew that someone would take over anyway, because you could feel you have to be quite realistic. I always was quite realistic about things. I didn't want it to end, but I knew it had ended because I was just physically drained. And so I made the decision to actually quit. And luckily enough, being involved with the football club beforehand and getting that thing handed to me on a plate, the chairman said, I had something else to do. I didn't sit behind my gates at Windsor, behind my lock gates and sulk because Frampton started selling 20 million. I sold a lot of albums, but in that bit of time when disco was happening, Donna Summer, Frampton, Fleetwood Mac, Grease, Saturday Night Fever, it was quite amazing, the record sales, never to be seen again, I don't think. It was just quite incredible. And so I stopped at the time when that happened. I just missed it, but I had something to do. I might have got really bitter and twisted, and I might have gone back on the road too soon if I hadn't have had something else to do, and I had something else to work on. And I didn't really think about it too much. I didn't become that bitter and twisted. In fact, when I did a show at Wembley for charity, which I actually got myself locked into, I don't know, it was 78 or something like that, and I actually said on stage, I said, I'm not playing, because I saw everything that I came off stage for, like the equipment and all the big thing, and I thought, I don't want to, this is too soon, I said, a nightmare, I don't want to come back like this. I really, in 76, I remember playing at Oakland Coliseum, and I listened on the way back in the car. They used the radio stations to do the hour tribute, and they played the live album from like 11, 17, 17, and I thought, this is my piano playing. I thought, I'm not playing like that anymore. I'm not singing like that anymore. What's wrong with me? It was just becoming routine. I wasn't playing badly, but there was no, it was too easy. It was just, and I thought, I can't go through this anymore. I can't. And the only way I wanted to come back was with just the two of us, me on stage. I wanted egotistically, and there is a lot of ego involved in everything. Egotistically come on and do a 3-hour show with Ray doing the histrionics, but doing it in a theatrical way, and play for 3 hours and go through every gamut of music, playing classical type music, the Elton John type music, tumbleweed, on my own, and playing rock and roll and doing a show for 3 hours that people would not get tired during. It's a long show, 3 hours, just the two people, and I did it, and I thought, there's no other fucker that can do this. If you can pull it off, then I've got my self-respect back. And we did it, and that's then gradually we built back. Because also at that time I don't think I could have gone back to 20,000 arenas, because I don't think I would have sold them out.
There was the given wisdom is that you maybe came out with too many records. There was some overexposure.
Oh yeah.
Somebody says maybe the Rolling Stone interview was damaging. Do you believe any of that?
Yeah.
You think some of
well,
that?
the too many records. I remember one period of time. Madman was the fourth album, my fourth real album. And it was scheduled, and before I'd made it, I'd made this album, the soundtrack for the film Friends, which Paramount, I'd had exclusive control over every album sleeve, and then they promised me that this was going to be the best sleeve of all, and it was just the most horrendous. In fact, I ruined Paramount Records. They put out so many records on the street, and that they got them all back, and that was it. Bang, bang, Paramount. It was 600,000 records they got. Now you can buy Friends for 50 cents, and with a hole through it. And it was like one of the original bootleg gold albums, People used to do that in those days. And then the 11, 17, 17 album was never supposed to be an album. It was one of their first live radio broadcasts. And MCA panicked because of the bootlegs were big in that time. And they said, no, we've got to put this out. And it's a fine recording, but I wish they hadn't, because the 3 albums came out in the space of about 4 months. Which, good God.
It seemed from us who observed, that it was arrogant. Why is he jamming all these records out? It seemed cynical. That was in the trade. It seemed that way, and I assume some of the public must have felt that too. I guess.
Yeah, it was just. Basic thing was I had I was contracted to do 2 albums here, and I did 2 albums here, and it was a routine that I record quickly, and by the time I had one album in the charts, I was just finishing off the other one. So it was like it was a piece of cake. It was just, and we were doing separate singles too. It was, how did we do it? Looking back on it, it was astonishing. I don't know the amount of work, but it wasn't, because we actually wrote and recorded quickly. Albums, we had a budget, we kept to it. We had a budget even up to Yellow Brick Road. We still thought of budgets, and we were very disciplined. I don't think there was any other act on the road that was so disciplined and thought of budgets, and there was no drugs going around at that time at all. And it was just, we worked, and it was a routine, and we just loved it. And I agree with you, there were too many records. Yeah.
And you think the Rolling Stone?
Yes, I think it hurt me a lot in America. Didn't do me any good in America at all. I don't think it did. It came at a time where people were fed up with me. Too much stuff, And Lennon once said to me, he said, when Jim Croce died, and he said, and Jim Croce, you sell more records when you die than you live. It's very sick, this world. But,
he proved that, didn't he?
Yeah, and John said, listen, I hear your records on the fucking radio enough now. I said, if you died, I'd throw my fucking radio out the window. I said, it's just ridiculous. And it was, people were fed up with me, and then I came out with that, and a lot of people weren't ready for it. Didn't hurt me over here or in Europe or anywhere else at all, but in America I suddenly, it did hurt me a lot, and I had to struggle to get that back, and I'm still struggling to get some of the radio stations back on my side. But then, I said it, that I said it, so I haven't become bitter about it. I didn't think it was any big deal, but it is a bigger deal over there than I thought it was, because of the the different religious things that are happening in America now. The sort of evangelists, which is I find it quite frightening.
Well, I've taken on a job now as the head of the Record Academy. I'm going to be taking over the Grammy show, but I'm going to be the spokesman debating those Jimmy Swaggarts.
They're unbelievable.
And Falwells.
And the Robertsons, Pat Robertson. God help us.
I'm going on the Ted Koppel show after the first of the year to debate 2 of those guys.
Well, good luck.
But
it's fanaticism, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fanaticism that is getting response.
Cloaking it in the most simplistic terms, so that there's nothing, there's no complex, there's no grace. This is it. Follow me. We're the only way. We'll show you. And they're all bad out there. And we got to get rid of them. So I'm going to take them on.
But Forwards had, the majority had books taken out of libraries. They've had,
Well, Norman Lear has an organization called People for the American Way, which goes and fights these guys. And he's got all these quotes that I'm going to throw at these guys, all these things they've said.
I mean, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, yeah.
I think they had something to do with soap taken off television.
There's a lunatic fringe everywhere.
I know, but it's like... Over here, I mean, those programs, they would be comedy programs over here. They'd be Monty Python. But we have lunatic fringes over here too, with the Labour Party, the militant Labour bullies. But they're bullies, and exactly what it is. It's bullying people.
You didn't feel any backlash in your American tour this time, did you? I mean, on those terms.
Not at all. No, it's never affected my concert. No, I think it affected me on radio. I think I think maybe affected radio, and I think I think in the end radio thought I was just churning things out because of the sake of it, and I wasn't actually. I was always very sincere. There are a couple of really shallow albums. I think the Caribou album's a very shallow album. But we made 3 very brave movies. I mean, at the height of our career, we made Captain Fantastic, which came in the first album to come in #1. I fired the band, fired Nigel and Dee. God knows why, I just had a gut feeling. We made Rock of the Westies, which is a completely different album. And then we followed that with Blue Moves, which is a completely I think we were very brave. I was very brave. I was full of integrity for the record business. I wanted to put out B-sides that weren't on albums. I put out the first 3 fucking track single in America ever, which MCA tried to hush up because they said, listen, if everybody else finds out Neil Diamond and The Who, they want to put 3 track singles. Saturday Night's Alright, I think, was the first 3 track single. We put out I think I did a lot to break the 3-minute record, the 2-minute 30 single. So I've always had goals like that. I wanted to give value for money and things. But I mean, I didn't have time to think about it at the time, and I was just enjoying myself. But looking back, Jesus Christ, if anyone said now you're going to make 17 albums in 6 years, or release them, it's fucking ludicrous, isn't it?
Eagles made 6 albums in 17.
Yeah. It is quite ludicrous.
I used to point to you when I talked to Jackson Brown and to the Eagles. I said, look at this guy. He's writing these songs, and he's not finding them in the air. Why can't you guys write some more songs?
Yeah.
They say, hey,
it's the way we write. Now I think everyone's going to be really, because I mean, I'm writing quicker now than I ever did, and I think writing, and I mean, I had a lot to. I'm still trying to get my career back together in the States as far as record sales go. But I think a lot of that has to have been done. I mean, had to do with being on Geffen. I made a big mistake leaving MCA. I made a big mistake. The reason I left MCA was. He romanced me, and I left MCA because Song for Guy, which was a hit everywhere else, it was an instrumental, they said they wouldn't work, and that meant so much to me. They said it wouldn't be a hit because Music Box Dancer by Frank Mills was #1, and you can't have 2 instrumentals in the American Top 100. And now I thought, right, you fuckers, Gene Froelich it was actually. Oh. I thought, right.
Well, you left the crippled company.
Yeah, I left at that time. It was crippled. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a record company.
But I mean, in all fairness, they treated me real well in those 10 years. They really, I got everything I could possibly have wanted out of a record company.
Oh, I know. We tried to nail you one time when you were up for a renegotiation, but you stayed.
And David romanced me.
Yeah. And David really did the number on you.
And that's been 5 albums worth of hell for me. Quite honestly.
Does it bother you that your records make gold, you have chart records, but they're not obviously it bothers you?
Double platinum records, you mean? Yeah. It
definitely
does, because how can we have 2 singles off the last album, one number 6 and one number 20, and the album has just gone gold instead? There has been, it's more to it than meets. I mean, the album goes double platinum in Canada, right, on Geffen, and it just crawls to gold thanks to the Record Club of America. And if that's what it's down to. Because the album, I Fire was my biggest album for years on Phonogram. I mean, I've worked real hard at sort of furthering my career in other parts of the world, Australia, Europe, especially. I just had my first gold album in Brazil, Sweden, and Switzerland. The album's gone double platinum. I mean, you sell a lot of records in Europe now. I mean, to people in America, they read the trade paper, they isolate. They tend to think that you sell a hell of a lot of records if you work the European market. You can sell 600,000 albums each time in Germany, and in France you can sell a lot of albums, and that market's so loyal. You've got it. And America, I honestly think I've had hits, but the albums, I just know there's something that's.
Don't you think that the success of this tour is going to help?
I hope so. I mean, I'm leaving Geffen. I'm leaving Geffen and going back to MCA. Out of the frying pan into the fryer, people keep saying it to me. But I think MCA will do a good job, and I get on well with it. But I want to go back and work this album. But I mean, with Geffen, I believe it when I see it with David. There's something weird about him. I just don't know.
I won't use any of that stuff.
No, but I mean, he didn't speak to me for a year, and I was doing Blue Eyes. I was putting strings on Blue Eyes. It was the 18th of December. He said, "Please come over to the premiere of Dream Girls."
Dream Girls.
And I said, "I can't." He said, and he wouldn't speak to me a year because I didn't go. It's what you call a real stupid Queen's mentality. That's what it is. And it's just ludicrous. And I've been fighting. Johnny Barbas is the only person that's kept me sane in that company. Ed Rosenight's a lovely guy. Ed is smart, sweet, but he's got no.
Been beaten down.
Yeah, he's been beaten down. And Johnny has been wonderful. I haven't been with Johnny. Yeah, they fired him when rapper. Oh, I don't. Anyway, but yes, my albums. I'm still fighting to get that back. So it's still something to fight for. I desperately want a platinum album again. Yeah.
Do you look back and when it happens with the flavor of the month, Michael Jackson, you get envious? Or,
yeah. But I mean, I know that those people. Michael Jackson's a real talent. I mean, he makes great records and he makes one every 2 years. Yeah. I wish I could have sometimes. That's not in me to do a record in 2 years. I like recording. And Michael's so it's an event. When Michael puts out an album, it's an event. It's not so much an event for me because I put out more product. But Michael's talented, you know. I mean, you're talking about the Madonnas. It'd be interesting to see how well she can keep that up. But you know, I don't get Johnny. Good luck to them. I'm very thankful I've lasted 16 years, and the reaction to this tour and my career, I'm happy with than anything. It's just and the States gives me something to work for. I want that platinum album again. I want that top 10 album. Yeah, and the last album didn't get in the top 50. Yeah. So yeah, of course I want it.
Was it difficult getting back together with Bernie Taupin? I mean, the chemistry, did it...
It was never a falling out. What happened, when I came off in 76 off the road, he moved to Los Angeles. There was the whole thing about the tax exile bit. I stayed in England. He went, which was the opposite way around to what everyone thought would happen. And I didn't really mind. I went into the studio in 78 to do a record called Ego, which was a single that he'd written, and I was really pleased with it. In fact, we did the first ever film video, which cost us about £40,000 or £50,000, and we had a premiere for it. I can shudder to think about this in Westwood, right? We had a premiere for it, and then everybody came, and after 3 minutes, that was it. John Reed's going, "Show it again!" And I sort of have goosebumps about that. And what happened in the studio was I hadn't written for a long time, and I started writing melodies first, and out of that came eventually the Single Man album, which was all Gary Osborne lyrics, because Bernie wasn't there. And it coincided with Bernie putting an album out with Alice Cooper. He'd done an album with Alice, and they both, and they both came out at the same time. So people put two and two together and said, well, they split up, which we hadn't. We just had a necessary hiatus. I mean, we didn't stop talking. I mean, we never had an argument, Bernie and I, but it was just a gradual process of getting back together again and writing a whole album together. And we're 20 years strong next year, and I can't ever see us stopping writing. But it's been good for him writing with other people. And the weird thing about it is, he's had hits with other people and I haven't, and that really pisses me off. Not pisses me off, I'm not angry, but I mean, I'd always love to have had a hit with somebody else, like recording one of my songs, and I haven't. And now Taupin's had the 2 number ones this year with Jefferson Starship, We Built the City, and Heart. So it's been good for him. He's doing an album now on RCA. We're very, very close. We're like brothers. I mean, like, I'm real proud of him and I'm real pleased with him. And, you know, we just went through, after all that working together, God, blimey, you need a rest from Science.
What about Buckmaster and Dudgeon? Were they involved in any of the records after you came back?
No, Gus Gus is now involved. He's did Ice on Fire, and he's done the new one, Leather Jackets. Buckmaster did did some stuff on Single Man. And I changed bands. I changed to Chris Thomas. I did a couple of albums producing myself, Single Man, and 21 at 33 were co-produced by myself and Clive Franks, who's my sound mixer on stage. And then I chose Chris Thomas to do some stuff. And Chris and I in fact, Chris was still my producer, but he couldn't. He had on the Ice on Fire album, he was committed to do In Excess and Pete Townsend. So I thought, who the fuck am I going to get? And I had a couple of meetings with what's his name? Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Jesus Christ. Yes, Jill Sinclair, and you always think of Jill first.
Cool.
Oh, anyway,
yes,
good. I can't believe I can't think of his name. But he said I can only do one single in 6 months, you know. So that was no good. And I thought people have been pressuring me. Gus and I are a kind of magical combination. And I went back to Gus, and people have been pushing me in that direction for a long time, but I knew when the time I was right, and I just said to Bernie, I'm going to phone Gus up and see what he's doing, and he hadn't been doing much anyway. And so it's nice to get back into that relationship, and I think with this album, Leather Jackets, it's the last in a line of pop albums, because I'm getting a little pissed off with, like, you've got to have a single to sell the album routine. And I've never been one to stick entirely by the rules. And I know exactly what sort of album I want to make out for the next album, for the first album. I want to go back and make a Madman or a Tumbleweed type album. Go in the studio and not make, not have any idea of a single, because we never used to have any idea of singles anyway. We never used to say, there was never any pressure, you must have this as get a single out. You just go in and do an album, and then the singles would emerge. And I think now the pressure is so much, you're so thinking about, we're going to have a single, that your writing changes in sorts of ways. And I find it much harder to write under those circumstances anyway, to write hit singles, because I was never any good at it.
Do you still have the enthusiasm when you get out there on stage to get yourself pumped up?
That's one area you can't cheat.
Yeah.
And I've had, I know it's time to stop and everything. I came off tour with the last band in 1984, Dee and Nigel, and that's, I thought, well, as a rhythm section, I worked with them so long, and I couldn't work with them very much again, so, until maybe in the future sometime. And I thought, I'm coming off the road, I'm stopping, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a rest. And then the Live Aid thing happened, and I had to get a band together, and I was doing Ice on Fire, and I know food's it. So
just to read just a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And I just met these other musicians, and I planned, like the Tina Turner album, I planned like 4 lots of rhythm sections, played with different musicians, and gave me a real kick. Got the Live Aid band together, 13-piece band, never had that before. And I thought, I got to tour these guys. And I really didn't, the last thing I thought I wanted to do was tour again for a long time. And it's been so much fun, and we've been a year now, and we don't finish till March, which will be a year and a half. And it keeps getting better and better, and it's great, it's fun. Now I've got the Australian thing to do with a 98-piece orchestra, which is going to be a mindfuck. The only reason I'm doing it is because I think it's going to be it's going to be the only concert that there's ever been done with rock where you can hear the fucking orchestra, right? So you go and see the Eagles do Hotel California, and you're just going, where are the strings? I can't hear the fucking strings. And I want to do all the old Elton John stuff, 60 Years On, all that first album type stuff. And then mix it in, they had the band creeping in, and at the end of the band, all the strings will be placed, they're doing the intro to Saturday Night and everything. Yeah. And I think now that'll lift us, because every tour we've had to change the set, because the set was different from Britain to Europe to America, so it's kept us on it. We haven't been playing the same numbers every tour. And after that, it's my 40th birthday next year, Bernie's 20th anniversary, yeah. I might do some solo shows to do that, and just I kind of like the idea Elvis Costello just had in LA. Yeah. He did 7 nights or 5 nights, and he just did a different set each night. And
did you just do the 2-man thing when you went to Russia?
Yeah,
that was
just 2-man.
And their reaction was
unbelievable. Well, that made the front page of New York Times, LA Times here. Yeah. They'd never seen anything like it. As far as the kids were blocking the streets, and they didn't mind. It was the year before the Olympics, so I think they wanted that sort of coverage. But the woman who took us over, one of the women who worked for Gospel Concert, was just in Los Angeles. We talked to her, and I'd love to go back there, because music just breaks down. When I went to Poland, I went to see Lech Walesa. I went to his house. It breaks down barriers. I'm not going to sit up and preach to people, because it makes people think. I mean, the Live Aid thing is great. It made people think. But having been involved with my soccer club on a political level, as far as dealing with the local authority, you're only fooling yourself if you think you're going to change the world by being a rock musician, because it's a 5-minute wonder or a 5-second wonder. If you want to change things, you have to change them at grassroots level and become involved. And I've gotten to know that, and I think music and sport should be free from any political interference whatsoever. You meet somebody in the park and you don't even know who they are. They can be from anywhere, and you kick a ball to them and they kick it back, and it's great. It's that sort of thing. I got into trouble for going to South Africa. I know. I wanted to find out what it was like. I went to play Sun City. I wanted to go back there this year and play in Soweto, but things aren't too nice down there at the moment. But I have no qualms about going to South Africa either.
Elton, if 15 years from now, do you think your songs will be played? Maybe not your record, but what songs will last? What?
Your song will always last. I think it's just I'm not fed up with playing that. I don't know. It's hard for me to pick. It's very hard for me to choose which ones, because sometimes I like other ones that haven't been so popular. Your song, I don't know, Daniel. I mean, I think you'd have to ask somebody else that, because I'm only just beginning to realise that, because I never thought of it before, which is stupid, how songs affect people. I mean, I always get periods of my life where I always remember certain records, times when I was really miserable. I'm not in love, and I was in love with someone, and it was disastrous. I played it 1,000,000 times, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, James Taylor, My Sweet Lord, Brown Sugar. Certain records at certain times in my life mean a lot, and I never thought of our songs to be like that. It's mad, isn't it? But I'm basically a songwriter, really, just to become a performer. So I think I don't know. Mostly I think the romantic ones.
How, when you finally hang it up, 15, 10, 20 years from now, how would you like to be remembered?
As a good musician and a good writer of good songs, I think I just want to improve writing songs. I want to write songs, love to write songs. When Sinatra sang one of my songs on a concert once, he sang "Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word," and that was, for me, one of the highlights of my life, because a song should last. If it's a good song, it lasts forever. Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel is that sort of song. It's a great song.
If you could bottle one period of time in your life, put it up on a shelf, and when you're sitting in a rocking chair at Watford as the next Sir Stanley Rouse, what would it, what would it be? What
I don't know. I've been incredibly lucky, really. Yes. I mean, I'm very, very happy now. I mean, I can't really remember too much of the 70-76 period because there was so much stuff, you know. It may sound up, but I can't. It doesn't. Years just run into each other.
Blur, huh?
Yeah. I think, though, that from 1970 onwards, when my life changed, when I became Elton John, I became much happier as a person, and I actually took on Elton John as became my real name, and I could do things that I wanted. I think you have to say from 1970, let's say 20 years from 1970 to 1990, we haven't got there yet, but those 20 years must have been rather special.
Do you have a hard time not being Elton John?
I'm Elton John full time now. Yeah, I don't even think myself as Reg anymore. Yeah. But Reg might be surfacing again. I don't know. It might surface. Because I want to make so many albums. I want to do an instrumental album. I want to do an album with just piano, and I want to do albums singing other people. And when you're tied to a record contract, the record company now, they say, well, I mean, that's a bit diverse. You know, we paid you a lot of money. We want a proper album. So maybe Reg might make albums and put them out on. It's I don't know. I'm very fortunate to have lasted so long. I think there's still a lot to come out of me. A lot.
Terrific.